time she acted as president.
I'm sure she did, because they take turns. But
Yeah, but she got an award for that. And then she got a bravo for that too. So congratulations.
Except for the old man. Like to talk in front of people. All right, let's squish together, because there's a small group.
They're really comfortable.
Yeah, the seat's warm.
See this one?
We can hear you.
All right, all right.
I like your colors.
It's okay. Neon day today.
Mine was grab something to wear out of the closet there.
Oh.
Okay, so today is going, I don't know how long it's going to go. It's going to depend on you, because we're going to do a lot of discussion today. So if you don't have any questions, we'll be out of here in 10 minutes. And if you're good to go,
No
if
questions,
not,
maybe.
we can be here until 7. So I don't know how it's going to go. But by and large, we're going to try to answer a lot of questions and show you a couple of things, and hopefully smooth out some of the bumps. I will tell you that at the beginning of the year, I told you a new program and we would have some hiccups along the way, and sure enough, we're experiencing some of those. So we'll try to clarify as best as possible, and then we'll take some suggestions from you to try to make things better. I know one of the things that we want to do is people want to see a pacing guide and samples, particularly from the journal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's give it a start. I changed the mentor logs a little bit for next month to hopefully clarify that. And
Teachers want to know when their journals are going to be up to start writing them.
you need to post it.
Is that right if I close the door?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't going to ask any questions, I'm sorry. I'll send you an email.
Just grab them the journal and make a copy of it. That's what I can do.
Is that what you mean, their journals?
I'll throw it in the well.
He doesn't always have that ready for me the first time we meet, so that's why I didn't.
Are we, oh, see, I used the last one and just changed the dates. Oh, I didn't,
Yeah.
for mine,
Oops, this one should say.
I didn't know there were others in there. Does it matter?
No, it just helps that the title says September, October, November, and so when we collect them, we can see what they are.
Yeah, I think I.
But I did change this, and so here it says professional development hours, meaning training that you went to or training that your induction candidate went to.
I'm glad you
That
changed
goes
that,
here.
because I was thinking about that.
I didn't know.
Because
that
it was
meant.
confusing.
Yeah, okay.
And the idea is that you are recording your hours here if you are interested in the units from Fresno Pacific or Fresno State at the end of the year. And they're going to ask for 45 hours. And some of the professional development activities that you are doing count. So you can throw those hours in here and help keep track of both your hours and your induction candidates' hours.
Do these count as PD hours?
Yes. The hours that you are meeting, it says total mentor meeting hours, goes here. And that we're looking for a minimum of 4 hours here. So you're meeting every week. Can I make it a little clearer?
Yeah.
In November it'd be 3, right?
Let me look.
Same
So
thing with
1,
December.
2, 3, it could be 4, depends on whether you meet on Thursday or Friday. It'll be close.
Yeah. No, even if you met today, that's 1, 2, 3, because the first is the next Thursday.
Okay. So 3.
So it would be either 3 or 4, depending on which day.
Depends on 3 or 4, depending on which
So,
day.
Steve, you said we can get units for doing this?
Yes,
How, up to how many? I didn't remember.
3.
I don't know.
And I think it's $300,
I think so.
250, 300, something like that.
Each year you can do that?
Is it years?
If they add a COLA.
Yeah.
But if you're not interested in the units, you don't have to track them?
No, but your induction candidate might be interested in the units because they're just getting started, so keep track of those. But if you don't want to for yourself, that's fine.
Are they gonna have to put down what it was that the professional development was on, or is this college gonna be okay with them just putting PD?
They're probably gonna wanna know, what PD you went to.
Yeah.
Okay,
When I did it, you had to you just put the title and then how many hours it was, so like Kagan,
Okay,
7
7
hours. It's real basic.
okay.
And I retroactively add hours to it.
Sure.
Mhm.
On the ones you have, yeah. Don't turn them back into us, but make sure that your copies reflect that, so you can, you'll confuse us if you send it down. All right, very important, Madera Unified, that we get these on time, or if they're a timesheet, and because of our 2 programs and the amount of money that we're going through, we really have to take care of it carefully, so among other things, we're getting audited. We won't pay you unless we get it. Okay? Speaking of payroll, I'm on camera, so I won't throw them under the bus this time, but
Yeah.
the teacher support office did our due diligence. And payroll saw 2 and said, well, why is there 2? We only paid 1. And they only paid 1. And then everyone started kind of hollering, and they said, oh, well, we didn't know. So they're mailing a check out to everybody tomorrow. So y'all got that email?
Yep.
So, and I'm sure that we'll still have issues, but yeah, so we tried to be really careful and get it down right. And that's for August and September. Because we're just now collecting October, can't contact mental loss. Questions about that? Okay, there's questions about the update that we're doing now. And so I need you to write this in your notes because even as I make changes, it's not reflected on your teacher's documents. But the update to the ILP, which we have not done yet, so I'm going to collect clear in a moment, is going to be due December 14th, not November 30th. What we have just done this month is add the pathway and the outcomes. So that's still the plan. The ILP is the plan, and the results are showing up on the journal. So in September we wrote the goals, in October we wrote the pathways and the outcome, and then in December we will ask for an update. It's possible that some teachers don't really have an update, and so in there we want, and this is what you have to write down because it's not written on their document, there needs to be a rationale for why they are not changing it. Okay? So let me show you what the new edited version looks like.
That's if they don't change it?
Correct.
If they, wait a minute.
So they should be updating it by December 14th. If there's no real update, they have to still include a rationale
Where did we
that
do that?
explains why they are not updated.
That's correct.
Okay.
So maybe they get it perfect out of the bag and they're going, you know what, I could fake it,
Right.
I could write something, but I don't want that, I want it authentic. So the new document, unfortunately, when I write on this, doesn't update theirs now because we've already distributed it via Google Classroom, and they now have their own copy. But I have updated it in your in mentor folder And it says, if you are not making any changes, please provide a rationale for keeping it the same. Okay?
So if you've got, what changes did you make to your goal and measurable outcomes? Do they just, you want them just to write there, I added 3 new pathways?
And then you have to answer the next question, why did you make these changes?
Because they're supposed to be doing really more.
Well, but the idea is, the intent is that this is a plan, and I wrote some of my plan now, and I submitted it. And then I started doing some research, or I got involved with a student, and I went, I didn't know that. I didn't know that this seminar was next week, or I went to this seminar and didn't realize that I was, or, gosh, I gave the pre-assessment and everyone aced it, so that's not a good measurement, so I changed my assessment piece. Or Juan moved away and he was my EL focus student, or, you know what I mean? And we just wanted a chance for that to happen in November and in March. That there's some learning going on, and it's reflected in this ILP of, I discovered this and this is why I'm making a change. Okay? Now, let's go back to the goals for just a moment. And one of the bumps or hiccups that we're experiencing is that my readers are not calibrated yet as well as I had hoped. And so I have some that are real rigorous, and some that are not so rigorous, and some that are in the middle. And so I sent out an email to my readers and said, don't grade anything until we meet on the 7th, and we're going to discuss and see if we can come back into better alignment and see where we go from there. We're all over the map. And what's interesting is that y'all are talking, or at least your teachers are talking, and they're going, well, mine didn't.
Yes.
And they look similar. So there's a problem. We're going to correct that on the 7th, and hopefully eliminate some of the inconsistencies. And it's all due to the fact that it's new, and we're all learning as we go along. So any questions about that?
And that's in the mentor documents you said for us? It's
This
updated on
document with the
ours, but not
change?
in theirs?
That's correct, because once we distribute it via Google Classroom, they have their own copy.
So, do you want us to give them this?
The
And if
directions.
so, what, just the directions?
Just the directions.
Okay, I was gonna say, because then what do you want them to do?
Just the directions.
It's the one that you updated Wednesday, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
So, the one that we just added the pathway and the outcomes to, we're moving, I did make the adjustment in Google Classroom, so the due date did change in Google Classroom from the 30th to the 14th. But what I wanted to make it authentic. What I don't want is to somebody just kind of fluff it off, oh, and then he changes and then not do anything. And so that's why we have a step of what's the rationale for not changing it. And that may actually be a more difficult question to answer than what changes you make and why.
Can I just share this with my girls then? And that way they have a copy of it?
You can share the copy, certainly,
Okay.
but their document already has all the,
Okay.
right? And I could instruct my readers to go in, but it's complicated, so. The best choice at this point is for you to just kind of announce that if there aren't any changes, to provide a rationale for why. And that we're allowing that to be an adjustment that we're making, that not everyone's gonna have a change, especially since it seems like it's going faster than I thought it feels fast. Does it feel fast to y'all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, boy, wait, let's slow down a little bit.
Yeah, it's November.
Right? And so I wanted them to get an actual chance to think about what they wrote and what their plans are going through before we tried to make an adjustment, because there may not have been enough time yet to think that through.
They're still writing their summary in that November at the bottom? Or are you changing it to December since it's December?
There you go.
Really?
There you go. Thank you. Good catch.
them a little bit.
Okay, speaking of which, now, there you go, there's some. I called Carmen Sander earlier because I got you guys mixed up, so. Want to make sure that you signed in, we're here.
This is a dumb question, but why does it have the PCTS on it instead of the like?
Huh. That is not a dumb question.
Aren't you glad we came today? Nobody else noticed these things?
Yeah, they've all been PCTS. All their other loans. Great. It gets me confused sometimes, so thank you.
I know, we can
I've
understand.
got one of these, so
I
thank you.
tried to make these all gray and
And
Dick's is
that
green.
helps, it helps.
Yeah. And I made par orange. I thought about red, wait a minute, that's probably a bad color for par. I think you good catch. Alright, in regards to the goals, we think that, well, we've already had some, somebody said, I went to Kagan, I came back and I realized, oh gosh, what I wrote, I don't even want to do anymore, I want to do this. Great. There is the opportunity in the ILP to change goals with this caveat. The deeper we get into the year, the smaller the sample size becomes for our presentation at the end of it. So while I'm not going to tell you that, okay, it's too late to change, keep that in mind. The deeper we get into the year, the harder it will be to actually change those ILP goals completely. We can make adjustments, but if we wipe it out, now where are we going to get all of our evidence that supports the growth in that goal? Okay? So you can change them, but the window is closing. Okay? How did writing the pathway and the outcomes go?
It's pretty good. They felt like they didn't know what they were gonna be doing like in January, February, and March, and so I was like, well, what we have now, and then as we make those adjustments, you'll just keep adding to it, cause they were like,
Perfect
I don't know what
answer.
I'm doing in February, and I was like, I don't need a friend, so.
Perfect answer. And we anticipated that with the March update.
I made a suggestion to mine cause I sat down with them while they were doing their pathways, and I went back to previous experience, and I had them, as they were writing, they needed to say, this is pertaining to this goal, this is what I did, I researched, or I went to a conference, or whatever they did, was online, talked to a fellow teacher, what they learned from that fellow teacher, and then they went into a narrative, because don't you wanna know what they did with their classes?
Not on the ILP.
No, I thought you did.
You can't because it's in the future.
No, I thought this was as each month as they do something.
No, that's the journal.
So then I'm not sure what they're supposed to be putting on the pathway.
So the pathway is the plan. I plan on attending KAG, this is what I expect to get out of it.
Okay,
That could happen in March or February.
okay.
I'm going to do research. I was told that there's the journal in the Teacher Tech website, that if I go here and learn this, right? I'm going to be attending Fred Jones to help, right? This is the plan. The ILP is the plan, and the results are on the journal.
Okay.
So this is all new to me.
It's all new to all of us.
Yeah, well, I haven't even done bits or any type of coaching, but, so we wrote our goals and we talked about them together. She wrote her pathway on her own, should I have done that together with her?
Yeah, but it's not like it's the end of the world. Yeah,
So she just said,
Because-
I've already done that, and,
Because the pathway is part of your ongoing discussion in your mentoring meetings. Did you go to your seminar? How did you go? What did you get out of it? What can you do? When I go and observe you, you said you saw this in your seminar, how is it playing? I wanna watch it.
okay.
So that now your observation is very focused on that one little thing that she learned in her seminar.
So we have had the discussions, it's just that we haven't sat there and said, okay, let's write this, she's
Okay,
taken
as
that
long as
lead.
you have a really good
Okay.
understanding of where you're going, where she's going with this, fine. I would encourage everybody, and this is something that's coming up, is that, that they share the documents with you, so you can see it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Did you have a question, Kathy?
Yeah, I do, because it says here, and I'm sorry, I know we were gonna get in early. It says here, include specific activities that will help you achieve your goal.
Correct, that's in the future, these are the things I'm planning on doing.
Okay,
But I can't reflect on how they've already occurred, because I haven't done them yet.
but what if there are some that they have done that pertain to their goal?
I went to such and such a seminar, and then back on the journal, this seminar helped me understand that I needed to,
Okay,
and they can even begin to report the outcomes, are they meeting those outcomes on the journal? Because when we get to the end of the presentation in May, the idea is that I can go back to my journals and pick out the really good stuff and show and demonstrate teacher growth over time. The journal is the meat and potatoes as far as where we're gonna actually see all this played out. The ILP is the plan.
So in the update for the pathway, if they realize, like you said, oh, this training did pertain to this particular goal that I'm working on, they're now not writing in the future, they're now reflecting. So
A
it's
bit,
that-
because now that didn't help me, so I am now going to,
Okay, so you're still, okay.
right? Or like Megan said, I don't know what I'm doing in February. Oh my gosh, I found 3 really great things that are gonna happen that I wanna do. And this is what I'm gonna do and this is why. So that's the idea, is the ILP is the plan, the meat and potatoes comes out of the journal.
Do you have any suggestions on how to get your person to do the teacher observations?
To observe others,
Yeah.
it's a induction requirement.
Yeah, tell them it's mandatory.
They have to do 4, 2 this semester and 2 next. That is a requirement of our program.
Observations? Like they can knock it out on a Friday and we'll be done with it?
Well, ideally, it's over time, because they're looking at different things related to their ILP. I understand, we'll talk about subs in that in a moment,
Oh,
okay, so it's coming up.
I had a question too, because the administrator recommended, it's supposed to be administrator recommended, that teacher doesn't actually even want it to happen, I mean, so
that's part of my problem.
it's a stupid thing, but
Is it power play, the control issue?
I think everybody's swamped, because it's November 1st and we're all drowning because we haven't caught up with October and it's over, at least that's from my personal, I just, if we don't have the pristine administrator recommendation, can we just find someone else who'd be willing to have them in their classroom? I mean, I know that sounds.
Here's how I saw it play out in my mind, okay? Mr. Smith, I'm going to be looking at guided reading. These are a couple of teachers I had in mind. Is there someone that you think would be really good to go see? And Mr. Smith says, yeah, by the way, make sure you see Megan Hunt, because she's hitting it out of the park. Okay.
It's 5 o'clock.
Nice. That's it. That's all the administrators really.
No,
that's
and then,
how I
and so
see
the
playing in my
teacher
mind.
is like trying to find a time that would be good to have my induction candidate come. And right now we're drawing 0.
Okay, wait, I'm confused. Your teacher that you want to observe is having a hard time?
Yeah, the teacher.
Then you may need to find another teacher to go see.
Okay.
Okay. The administrator and the induction candidate are visiting every week for no more than 15 minutes. Perfect opportunity to say, my mentor said these would be some good people to see on guided reading. Do you have any suggestions?
No,
Yeah,
and it
go
makes
see-
good sense, and I think it's brilliant, we just haven't put A and B together.
And I know at one site, I had the administrator saying, I've got such a huge sub problem, let me take care of it. I'm gonna send you out on this date, cause I'm gonna get a full day sub, and I'm gonna have everybody go out on that one day. Okay, that works for them, but that's not my intent, that's not how I saw playing it out. My thought would be, y'all would coordinate it after you got the thumbs up orally, not written, not on a forum, just, hey, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, and you do go make it happen. So, subs are a huge problem everywhere. Everywhere. How's it at Chow High?
Well, funny you should ask. I called up Sheila and I said, Sheila, can you get me a sub for 4 periods? Because first period I observed one and it's my prep. But 4th period I called and asked her if she could find me one and she says, I got one for you today. And I said, well, we have 2 weeks. And she says, no, today, come over. So luckily it was convenient. So I'm gonna say
Nice.
we haven't had a problem yet.
How's the ETAA doing out there?
That sounds
Subs.
nice.
Oh, we're fine. We
You're
don't have
fine.
an issue.
That sounds
We're
nice.
small.
Madera County, how you guys doing?
We have an issue.
Drowning, and they don't come back, and,
We had to kick one out.
and the kids are so mean to them. At South,
We had to ask.
they had these emergency calls, so the students found out how to call classrooms on their cell phone, and they'd call the class with the sub and say, you need to bring your class to the media center right now. And it was the students telling the sub, who packed up the class and went to the media center, because let's do nothing, and they all, oh, it's
Okay, that's funny.
it's funny and brilliant and terrible, and there's no way to, I don't know how to stop them, we don't know. We don't know.
Only they
That
put
reminds
their
me of
brain
that-
power to something right.
With DiCaprio and Tom Hanks called Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
And he pretended to be a teacher and a doctor and a lawyer and a fighter, airline pilot. That's funny. No, I went to North Fork Elementary and they said, we don't even get subs. Because no one wants to drive here for $110 a day. So, Madera Unified's tried to solve the problem, by hiring permanent subs. But the chronic shortage has even caused those to be pulled and used in different ways than they were ever intended.
And they're swamped.
And they've done the math, and raising the rates doesn't seem to make it any better.
Let me retract and say teachers are covering, I mean, I thought you were talking about my BITSA sub, and I was real excited about that, but, teachers are covering.
Your teachers are covering the reps
Yeah.
chronic
Yeah,
ones.
we have to.
Or absorbing kids,
if we
we're,
do
you know,
the-
splitting
yeah.
kids up. So we
Deployments.
had to send a sub home 2 days ago, for inappropriate, language and some humiliation in public, and it was so,
That's
so
a go
we
home.
ended up with 65 5th graders in the reading labs, cause we had, we were short,
It's like a circus.
yeah, yeah.
If we did the math on the subs, they're getting what, 110 to 120 a day. It's about $2,500 a month with no benefits, no sick leave, and you have a college degree. And there's now, because minimum wage is going up and whatnot, if you have a college degree, you can make more than $2,500 a month. With benefits now, because of the affordable health care, you have to have insurance. The second problem is that we have a teacher shortage, and so we looked at all of our good subs and hired them as teachers. Right, and the third is that we're in an area where it's hard to attract teachers anyway. So we have a compounded problem isn't going away anytime soon. And then in our district, and I get it, I totally understand it, we had teachers that say, I need an hour and a half to go do whatever. Okay, put in for the sub, they're gone for the hour and a half, come to find out no sub showed up. Happening over and over and over again, so the union says, well, listen, let's make it so you have to take a half a day. Maybe you'll think twice about taking a sub, or if you do, they'll get filled. But that's causing problems on the
More
other end.
problems.
That is worse
So-
than
That's actually worse.
And I don't know what the solution is, I suspect it's hiring more permanent subs, but, you know, we have unfulfilled jobs. We have a job fair next week. That's unheard of, to have a job fair in November. So all of it, in fact, it's being hosted at their county office.
Yeah, but it's for more than teachers, it's for everything.
It
Or
is.
classified,
It
we're
is.
short classified
Yeah.
subs, and they were advertising it out in, on the fences and things that we need subs for bus drivers, custodians, paras, I mean, yeah. It's rough right now.
So crazy. It's not going away anytime soon. However, the Dairy Unified people, I do wanna make something clear. I have to have the sub request form when you need a sub and need me to pay for it. Okay? So if the induction program is paying for your sub, or if you're on the other side and you're pre-credential and you need a sub, I have to have the sub form. We have to keep track of this financially. We looked at what's coming through our office now compared to what it was last year, and we're somewhere around $700,000 now.
Where is it sent for?
It is in the folder.
Oh,
Is it also on Classroom for the induction candidates? I
That's
thought
a
I
great
saw
question.
it maybe. I can't remember.
I don't think I did it. I put it
I'm
in there
not
last
looking
year.
drive and I'm just not sure what folder I put those in.
So at this job
Sub
fair,
request, I see it.
Did you see it?
Yeah, it's not on Google Classroom, but I'm not looking at Google Classroom, it's on the drive. Make sub request form, it's a Google Doc.
So we need to copy and then send it to you or fax it to you?
But it has to be signed by your admin.
Oh,
But if we don't like it, you'll be able to find it, Steve.
we know that we could, that we know will show up that day.
I'm not picking, now I'm gonna explain that. I am not picking your sub. I'm only getting the slip that says you are taking money out of my account to use for a sub.
So we still request it for
You
this.
still have to request the subs.
One more question for you. Did you say earlier that the ILP got changed to the December?
The December update, 14th.
So this is not right?
That's correct.
Okay, just wanna make sure I.
So write it down, December 14th.
Okay.
What do you have, a new calendar?
I put it digitally on my thing, but I wanted to make sure I got that.
Megan, when I do this, does it send an email to everybody if it's in there and it's in the classroom?
If they've asked for one.
Yeah, they've asked for it. If not, then no.
By the way, I add myself as a student to your class, hopefully that doesn't freak you out.
If it gets to be too many, it does, yeah. But you're all right.
It freaked out someone at my school, they're like, you're not in that. You better email Steve, I'm like, I think he knows my mentor. I just wanna see what's going on. Cause I can't rely on my ex. Half the bag is.
So here is the Nick Mentor documents, and here is the sub-request form. Okay?
So we have people taking, using PICS money for their CSET days. Do they fill out a sub request form for the, okay, so I don't have any of those, but I know of people that at my site that I don't think have been filling out the sub request forms.
Here's the situation for Madera Unified. If you take something out of my account without a sub-request form, we will deny it and take it out of your sick leave. So we're under a microscope financially. So, hey, there he is.
So do you, if they've done that, do they need to go back and fill out a request
I need it
form?
now, yeah,
You
because
need it now.
we're gonna balance the books,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna start denying them, and then HR is gonna deduct people's sick days.
How much in advance can we do, do we have to do?
prefer 5 days. But if you're like, hey, I got an opportunity to go tomorrow, but my admin signed off on it, that's the key for me, is the admin signature. When the admin signs your sub-request form, first it tells them where you're going to be, and it also offers a suggestion if you have that conversation about who do I see, about guided reading. I'm gonna, that's where the conversation could take place while you're still filling out the sub-request form.
So for every observation that you get or is it?
No, listen carefully. Every time you need to pay for your sub for this program, I need to set a question.
But hopefully it's going to cover the on-campus sub.
If it's possible, or if you're going during your prep, or if you're going during PE time, or at the elementary level, or a coach comes in and covers you, or someone else on their prep covers you, or you know what I mean? Then I don't need the request, only if I'm paying for it. Now, here's the second thing. What would be helpful is if y'all could plan together so that you could share the sub. And it'll, one of you fills out the form and taking a half day, but 2 of you are going to be sharing the sub. I only need 1 request. But that would help you and it would help me. The less subs we can use, the better, but it's difficult, and I understand.
You might be getting a lot of those sub-request forms. That's
And we're even separating them and filing them and, yep. And yes, our pre-credentialed teachers can use subs to go take their test or even study for their test, go to a class, a seminar, whatever they need to do.
Does the pre-credential program people have the same requirement
Yes,
of the 2 observations of other teachers?
yes.
Is it 4 total? So 4
Yes.
That's okay, I'm waiting for us to get to observations.
Yeah,
That's
me
a
too,
good
yeah.
question.
That's where I'm at.
Are we there?
Observations.
Okay, okay, so do they need to observe at 2 different times or 2 different teachers? Because we pulled a group and went to 2 different sites and saw a handful of teachers. So they still have to do another one then by the end of this semester?
They have to do 2 per semester,
But
and if they don't,
It's not
they
just
lose
2
their
different
team
teachers?
star.
here's the situation. When you pull them and just throw them in as a group, that may miss the intent because their observation is to be focused on their ILP goal. So if one person has, all their goals should be really different. There might be some overlap, but it would be difficult, I think, to get a group of people to go do an observation unless they had identical ILP goals.
But what if they're there observing, like 3 are going to the same teacher, but they each know what their goal is, and they focus their observation based on what they need to see?
Again, the mantra of our year is do what makes sense to the teacher.
Okay.
I'm not trying to put round pegs in square holes anymore.
Okay. How long should their observation last?
It depends on what they're observing. If I'm going to 2nd grade, ELA could go an hour and a half. Probably want to see the whole thing. If I'm at the secondary level, I might get 50 minutes.
Just a period.
Okay.
It depends on what I want to see.
Okay.
So, if I'm looking at classroom management, and I'm like transitions or something, or I'm looking at how they use the up-down chart or whatever, I might see 3 teachers in an hour.
And those would count as an observation?
Yeah, that's kind of what we did, we roved for half the day and visited and were with an administrator at one site and and debriefed at the end of it all.
Sure.
So they could see a whole bunch of different grade levels.
That's great, that's such a good, I
They
wish we
loved
had time
it.
to do that, but I love
They just loved it and they said they got so much out of that seeing how rooms were set up, seeing the routines that were in place, watching them transition from recess, you know, in or out of recess, it was,
And so all that rich conversation that you're talking
yeah,
about goes in a journal.
right, right.
That debriefing was really good for us as well. I'm in a school where there's so much change, we don't have veteran teachers there that they can observe. But the little we saw that debriefing was essential to, I think, her journal writing. So we did the same thing with the half day and then moving around. When it's like that, where there's two people, and I was able to do that because there wasn't someone else at my site that was able to share. But I think this next observation, they're not. Do I need two subs for myself and she to go over?
Here's where we say, in an ideal world, we would love it if you could go with your induction candidate. But we don't live in an ideal world, so it may not be possible. I mean, if you can, fine. But we understand if you can't. The other issue is that we realize we're pulling you out of class all the time, and we're trying to be sensitive to that as well. So it may be a situation where you send her and come back and meet that afternoon to talk about what she saw. If I'm at the high school, we both have preps at the same time, and we can both go do it opposite, yeah, that works great.
If we model a lesson, is that an observation that they do? Like
Um,
if we,
No,
no, okay.
but it is a great activity, and it does count as a piece of evidence, right? The observation, because you guys are talking all the time and getting familiar with it, but I wanted them to see something different. When we look at our data over the past 6 years, one of the things that consistently comes back is, I wish I'd observed more teachers. Consistently. And when we forced that on our induction candidates, the feedback came, one of the best things I did all year was going and observing other teachers. And we used to have it where I organized the whole thing and made them go out and look at classroom management, and it was okay. And the ones that went, they got good things out of it, but the administration of it was really difficult, incredibly stressful. My problem is that I would set it up, and I had 4 teachers that were going to go see Megan, and then Megan would call me, my kid just threw up on the floor, I'm not going to be at school today, and I'm getting a phone call at 6:45. Okay, thank you, Megan.
I never did that, by the way.
No, she did. But I did have that, and now I'm scrambling to find another 5th grade teacher, and they're like, I don't know what to do. So then I don't have everybody's phone number. I was emailing people. Of course, they didn't answer for like 3 days later. I'd send them anyway. They'd show up. What are you doing here? We came to observe you. Well, okay, but we're going to the library, you know. So now that we put it in your hands, I do want you to pre-arrange with the teacher you're going to see. Don't surprise them. Let them know you're coming. Let them know why you're coming. When's a good time. So you've organized all that, and you know that you're getting authentic teaching and not, hey, we were showing a video because we just finished a major project, or it's the day before Halloween and we're passing out candy or whatever.
What do we do about the culture where some people weren't gonna let us in? I don't know if you've been at the high school lately, but they do not want people in their rooms.
Some teachers don't want other teachers in their room.
I would say 95%.
95%.
You can come to my classroom anytime.
That
I
helps.
mean, really, you really can.
I would
I
start.
would say crap is my
Start with our, I know on Madera High School campus, you can go to Lisette Lancaster, you can go to Duncan Needham, you can go to Diane Harper, you can go to Ian Fleming, you could probably get in to see Santos Rios, there's math, Mark Mercarian, no problem.
I'm trying to get people who don't have good, I mean, they all have good classroom management, I wasn't who's maybe not as good.
Well, that's probably why they don't want you in the room, because you already know about that.
Like, those are all people who have higher level,
I can't give you any
Either they
suggestions
got
on that while the
seniors and
videotape's running.
you know?
You want like a freshman.
Yeah, kids,
Basic
someone who actually
math
teaches the same
kinda,
kids
yeah.
that my
Right, I
people
understand.
teach. Oh, yeah. When you teach juniors and seniors, it's gonna be different ballgame.
Yeah, Spanish teachers.
What is their curriculum?
Sophomores, biology. Like, I want them to see sophomores. Diane Harper does have some sophomores, so that, I don't know what grade Reyes teaches.
Do they have to stay at Madera? Can they come
It would
in?
be really hard if they were trying to do it on
Christy
prep
Prince.
fields.
Isn't she
Otherwise.
there? Who? Christy Prince?
She's at South know who it is.
Jen Bidkovich,
I've asked her.
she's really good.
I know she's awesome. I just don't know her receptive.
She was at Washington, we had people in our room all the time. She was fine.
Crystalias is amazing, but she hates people in her room because of the fact that people were always in her room.
Okay, that'll be fine. I'll send her a text and be like, hey, I told somebody you'd be
You've been
fine,
offered.
so please,
Okay.
Yeah, we can look at the list after I turn on the video.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Michelle Munster might be good too.
Okay. When you're doing your observations, how many of you've got them done so far? Let me ask that question.
One.
That's good, that's where we're at, one. When you went in, did you specifically look at the ILP and focus on that aspect of it?
I tried to, they didn't do it.
You didn't do it, okay. I also have this thought in my mind about the ILPs, especially for second years. We've asked our second years to write 3. But in my mind's eye and when we were writing this summer, we kind of see one of the standards floating to the top as being more important than the other is. That this is the real, I gotta nail this goal because I'm all over the place on it. The other two I'm okay at, I need some improvement with this, and boy, I really need to work on it. Are you finding that to be true? Or do they all seem to be, all of the goals seem to be equal to each other?
So it's kind of mixed for me. I have one between
Interesting.
two different notes. But I have a first year and a second year.
Okay, so tell me which one's which. Tell me what's one.
Well, the first year, her main thing is classroom management. But what she's really working on, and what she really needs to work on, is student engagement. And the other one is kind of opposite of that. She thinks she really needs to work on student engagement, but she really needs to work on classroom management. I mean, like, it's almost like a mirror. It's interesting.
Well, classroom engagement and classroom management, they kind of go hand in hand anyway.
Right.
And we see that a lot when we start talking about Fred Jones. There's a lot of techniques we can do, but unless they're engaged.
Yeah.
So they both wrote. Okay. But your second year has 3 goals, correct?
Yes.
Is the
One
engagement
is
piece the
curriculum.
one that's rising to the top?
Yeah, well, I forget how she worded it. Her ILP, it was do more research to create better lesson plans with the goal of, it was like professional development, lining her professional development with good lesson planning to increase student engagement. Which she does very well, but her students are kind of all over the place. Because she's doing so many things, but I think they're under a waterfall.
One of the things that we found in the old system was that some teachers wanted to take the easy way route, so they were writing their goals, their inquiry on something they were already really good at. Is that still happening then? Is that kind of what you're saying? I do this really well, so let me work on this, or are they really getting the weaknesses? You're really getting weaknesses? Yay, that was our intent. Good. Question about the journals. Too easy, too hard, a lot of work?
Ours or theirs?
Their journals.
Oh, we have the
You don't have a
we
journal.
have the log.
Right.
You know, I think it will not be a lot of work if they take the time to remember to do it every week.
To write some notes.
Yes. And I'm even finding, one of my teachers even told me this week that it has helped him really reflect on what he did and what he could have done better. So they're all now into the routine. Every Friday they know they need to, or every weekend they know they need to do their journals.
Okay, so you're writing notes when you're meeting, and then they're kind of
Yeah.
putting summaries on their note,
Yes.
on their journal on the weekend. Okay. How's everyone else do it?
We do it on the log as we're meeting.
So you just, okay, so you throw out the log at the moment.
We need to do that. One of mine filed an extension because she's just overwhelmed, and just told her, it's not a novel. Just write what you did.
Did you guys take notes along the way?
Yes, and I take extensive notes, and Ian had the recommendation of doing like different colors in the log to show what we talked about for the different dates, and I thought that was I'm like, you could even, you know, move this over here and add it to your own words, because we did talk about it. I mean, she's not behind it, she's this swamp. I don't know if it's just that one more thing to do, I don't know.
One of the things we did see on the journal is this, that some teachers thought that the site admin console, the continuum, the bridging document were evidence that they should discuss and reflect on, and that isn't the case. Those documents or activities help direct the writing of the ILP. So that's pre-ILP, before the ILP is even written. What we wanted was the ILP written, and then evidence that we start collecting that supports growth in the ILP with some certain thoughts. One of them was that we still want proof that you're getting to know students. We still want to see observations happening as part of your evidence. And we still want you to pick focus students and have a pre and a post assessment. So, having said that, if I were in October and I gave my pre-assessment, that would be a piece of evidence that I probably would have included on my journal. We gave this assessment, and this is how we did, and this is what I'm thinking, and boy, I really need to think harder about, because the test shows me that. That's what I think.
Sorry, going back a little bit to the ILP goals, I have a second year, and in order to go in and observe my person, some of their goals aren't really observable in classroom instruction. Some of the goals are, for example, develop lesson plans on a pacing calendar, or building comprehensive understanding of their content area. And I have one that talks about informal assessment during instructions. I can go in and observe for that, but is it okay if I go in and observe for that one particular goal every single time?
I did think that, again, and going back to my mantra, what makes sense to the teacher. Having said that, if lesson planning is what your teacher's working on, wouldn't it be great if you had a printed copy of that lesson plan when you went into class? And did they follow it? And then you could even notice that she did checking for understanding and they weren't getting it, so she readjusted, and you can write notes into that. Or she checked for understanding and they didn't understand, but she kept going and didn't make any adjustments, right? That would be huge, because that's something that they're going to get dinged on in their evaluation. So if you're telling me that there are ILPs on lesson planning, I would one of my observations would be, well, how well are you doing with your lesson planning? Is it engaging? Is it doing all the things that you think it's doing? And you could be a mirror for that. So yeah, I think that you could see that.
The only the observation that we go in and do for them, the only piece of documentation is in the log on our end of it.
Your end of it is the log.
Okay.
And in bullet points, went into the
Yeah.
verb, we talked about this,
Okay.
this, and this, and this, boom, done.
What, just to share, I was talking with, actually Chris, another principal, he was talking about, when he goes in with his teachers, that he created, and I did the same thing, created a Google Slides for each of my, candidates. And then everything that I saw or did in pictures, I put into that slide, so it's become kind of a back and forth sharing that we can have. Does that make sense?
I'm lost.
Okay.
Who are you sharing with
So
and what?
my candidates,
Yes.
I have 3 of them. So for each of the girls, I have a Google Slides where I slides, whatever. It's not a
It is
document,
just private
you
between
know,
the two of them.
just shared between the
Okay.
2 of us,
Okay,
where it is where I can write my notes about what
okay,
I observed, include some pictures of what I saw,
okay.
and kind of a reflection piece, and then they can add to it also throughout the year.
And
So-
they is the principal doing their formal
This, I
observation?
got the idea from another principal, and so
Okay.
I am doing the same with
Is it a Google
them.
Doc or a Google Slide?
A slide.
It's a Google Slide. Well, that becomes a repository of
Of
evidence and
yes.
comments.
Yes.
So you're like taking pictures during the lesson?
Yeah, I can show, well, after the lesson, before I'm leaving, I can show you just one, just FYI. I just thought, I'm like you, I've never done any of this, never did BITSA, this is all brand new to me. And so I was really intimidated by the whole, okay, what do I have to do on my end of it?
And so, you guys can see this when it comes up. So as I'm going through, that one hasn't been added. So I've added just my notes, you guys told me like teacher, student, all that, which I'm still not sure I'm happy with. And then added some pictures, and then just kind of a little reflection from what I saw. And then that way we can just keep that going throughout the year, and then they have it also at their disposal. I just thought it was a great way to kind of pull it all together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I did something like that when I did my observation of a teacher, and I actually took a picture, because I'm using a memo on the Samsung phone,
Yeah.
and right in the middle, I just snapped a picture of it,
Yeah.
commented on it, and it's there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's perfect.
It was just, it had never occurred to me, and it seemed like a logical way
And I
to do
think
it,
taking
so.
pictures in the middle of a lesson, if it's not disruptive.
Right. And I took
Nowadays,
pictures of work,
yeah.
of students, you know,
Absolutely.
working, and kind of what the plan was, and then, cause she can't go in and do these things all the time, and so it was just a different perspective, and then it's part of their record.
And what I think is interesting is that in our culture now, everyone's used to a smartphone being out, taking
Oh,
pictures.
yeah.
And nobody trips over it.
Nope.
But if you'd have walked in with a big old Canon Super Shot, what are you doing?
Right.
Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, what the heck is going on?
Right.
But yeah, no one has any problem anymore with, especially if it's not being published.
The only thing you have to, to
It's-
be
yeah.
cognizant of is, I went into one classroom and the teacher did say, you can take pictures of everything but that table. And she cannot have her picture taken for any reason. Is it okay?
So that might be, and that's an outlier, but yeah, that does occur. I agree.
So on the collaboration log, when we do our observation, I think where I'm stumbling is in VITSA, like we had to fill out that entire observation thing, and I'm sure you're thinking of my first contact log where I was like, cause I did just like we used to that old form. So on the collaboration log, when we do our observation, it's just like bullet points. It's not like what we used to do where it was like 8 to 8:10, they did.
Yep.
10, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you that mentors up and down the valley are asking their directors the exact same question you just asked me. And some are saying, well, when are you gonna get this document ready, because I need to use it? And the answer is, there isn't one. What I would like though, is if you are using templates or forms to do observations, please share them with me. I would love to build a portfolio. I have 6 or 5 of them that are okay.
I really
I've had
like
them
the
for
ones you
7
gave
years.
us, I use it, and it was really cool to have that form of checking it off, and the map where they walk around the classroom, and
That one was awesome.
who was asleep and who was on their phone, and, you know.
But I'd love to
it's-
have like 30 of them, but you can
Right.
choose from.
Mhm.
So if you come across some, share them with me, please, and with it, even if you like it's okay, or I don't know, somebody else might get excited about it. So please share them with me. But yes, it goes right here. And it's just some bullet points. And I really, I think what I've done is raised our expectations of you without demanding more paperwork from you. Is that what we've done? Do you feel like that's what we've done?
Well, that's why I kind of felt like I still had to fill out, like, I still had to have all of that narrative, cause that's kind of what, like, when I do an observation, it's like a narrative for me,
Sure.
so I can kind of remember, but I was like, I don't know where to put this. So I plugged it all in that little spot right there, which is why my first contact log was like 3 pages long.
And then
I
Jessica
did the
has to
same
read
thing.
it.
She sure does. She loves me.
Jessica only gives me the ones that are problems, so I don't see it.
Would, when they observe other teachers, is that helping their progress towards their goals?
Yes, and it needs to be specific to their, I can't just go do observation for the sake of doing an
That's what I'm
observation.
worried about, with all these people's resistant to them coming in,
Yeah, it has to be tied to their goal.
very limited.
So
Jen's
we
like
can,
this.
we can talk after the
I
video's
don't
on.
know if she does a lot of moving in her classroom.
Alright,
It
Well,
makes sense
any-
for the key points of conversation and long-term analysis to have the same type of, as you continue, because you come back and talk
Yeah, I just found I just added to that.
Yeah.
I didn't change anything, cause I thought the same thing, well,
Actually,
they're
let's put it in
long term,
favor.
and still, we're still talking about those
Yeah.
things, okay. I'm glad you asked that, I had forgotten that.
You?
She's like,
Okay,
Well, but even a bad experience observation.
Yeah.
so we wrote these questions, and actually really, a better way of saying it is not questions, but talking points, back in June. And we thought we had everything nailed, cause you know, we were really smart, and we were really, you know. And now we're editing them, because we're finding that there's some other things that we need to add in that we're bringing up. So I'm gonna give you that opportunity now to edit November's reflection question guide. By the way, just as a point of reference, just because it's up here doesn't mean you have to talk about it. And some induction programs are not letting their induction candidates see these. I don't care. If you wanna share this with your induction candidate, that's fine. But it's meant to help you steer your conversations. And the comments that we've gotten the last 2 nights are, I'm glad they were there, cause I kind of assumed they knew that. And then I saw the question and I asked it, and oh my gosh, it opened up a whole can of worms of things that we need to discuss. Alright, so looking first at the just-in-time questions, are there something that you want to add?
I went over some of these today, but
Home hospital.
An independent study.
Well, it is independent study
It's
for
in
students.
the study,
okay,
but
okay,
home hospital is
gotcha,
only
yeah.
1 year.
But that's, I mean, that's the same thing.
No,
No, it's not. Independent studies like a kid that goes to Mexico for Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, that's taking, then put taking finals early, cause I have to do 2 separate finals. I have a multiple choice final that I give that kid who's not gonna be there the day of the finals, where we do presentations and orals and all those things, but that's, I don't know.
That's what this is, independent study for students leaving.
I know, it's not the
An
same thing
idea.
as a home hospital. What about,
It's not,
no,
so if I have, but with the, okay.
I would put slash.
But you know what, if it's home hospital care, then the person at the hospital generally has what they need, and
They
if
have
they
contact.
don't, they will contact the teacher.
No, we get a paper, it's like, this student's gonna be out for 7 weeks.
What are
Give
the
us all their
assignments?
work.
Oh, no.
modify it down.
It's, yeah.
And then the home
For home
hospital teacher
hospital?
takes that, and while I might be an English teacher, I still have to take the biology
Because we
and,
have a
the algebra 2 to that student, and like, I don't know how to help you, but here it is.
You
We
we
have somebody that does that.
You give it contact.
No, and there is a coordinator, there is a coordinator for home hospital, but each subject is different.
As they just took CELT in October, maybe something on ELD reclassification forms.
ELD reclassification?
Jen, making sure that they know to sign them when they get them. And to add interventions for students below, to know that kind of information. Especially at the middle school level, and we get those right off the right now. Because we don't have ELD.
We don't get official scores till like January, right? So
Yeah,
then
but
just,
they start looking at all the GPA stuff, and we have a lot of 6 months that are coming up.
at the elementary, just looking at the
LSTs.
LSTs and.
I just had a conversation with mine about how to refer a student to the school psychologist and how you should be calling that over the phone. You don't want your whole class to hear that conversation. The security doesn't need to know what they're coming to escort a student for. And they always want to know. You can tell them when they referral for school psychologist.
That's, okay, so the front
Emergency
office calls and
calls.
says, please send me Sally for her psychological
No,
appointment.
you're the one making the referral.
Or you're making a referral
Yep.
based on, I need Sally
Behavior.
tested or behavior.
They're crying out for help and you're
Like
noticing it.
immediately, like there's an emergency situation. Like you
I'm
just
gonna
see
say
this kid
that-
is in need. Right, right.
I'm gonna say that that is such an outlier, that it wouldn't apply to enough people to put that as a question,
I
but
think
certainly.
people don't know that we have that resource though. Does every campus have a school psychologist? I feel like they travel. They should.
We
Not
have our
necessarily.
district, and she gets, crisis calls and leaves wherever she is and handles crisis
That's sad,
in our district.
cause we have one on site all the time, so I kinda thought everybody knew.
What
I don't
about,
even think the elementary had one per 4 campus, I think.
Sad.
4 campuses per 1 psychologist.
what about, I had a conversation with one of my girls, last week about how to handle negative teachers, negative veterans.
Negative peers.
Negative, you know, that these kids, I keep calling them kids.
For babies.
I do, I call
Are we
them my
getting
baby
older?
teachers, that's
No,
my,
we're not
somebody
getting
here said that, and now I've taken it, so they, that, you know, they're still eager and excited and energized, and this one particular, gal doesn't wanna have lunch with the veteran group because they gripe, and she doesn't wanna be a part of it, so she's kind of feeling like she's on the, she's
we're doing
being
the exact same
seen
thing.
as the, you know, yes, yeah, and yet what she's trying to do is just protect her.
Sanity?
Well, yeah, but it, I mean, it was
I never ate
legit.
lunch in the lunchroom.
Yeah.
When I was at Madera High School, there was,
Yeah. Oh,
there
mean
was
girls,
4 of
let me
us
tell
that
you.
we hung out together all the time, we had our lunch together. And eventually 2 of them moved on, so, the 2 of us kept eating lunch and we started walking the track during lunch. But we never really,
Yeah.
we got enough of it when we went to department meetings that,
Yeah.
that was, we had a belly full of negativity then.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
it's-
toxic and
Yeah, absolutely.
and it's just,
But not to be an outsider, cause I feel the same way
yeah,
with our, we have a birthday lunch one Friday a month where people take turns bringing like cookies or whatever, and this is for like the world languages, English department, I don't even know. I go to that, I don't go to the, I don't eat lunch
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Cause it's just.
Oh, I don't either.
Who is breaking and dying and all these things, but make a point to go to those celebration things and maybe
Gotcha.
start that,
There
maybe
you go.
have,
we have that, we have a potluck, it's,
So-
I
and
think
go to
somebody's
that,
got one
you know,
coming next, yeah,
bolster her self-esteem and go
Yeah.
to that one.
yeah,
And not be an outsider for that one, and then be
Got it.
busy every other month.
Good plan. Yeah.
Alright, here's the, long-term analysis. Space, new space.
What happened to teacher growth recently?
I must have hit more than one key, huh?
Sorry. Yeah.
I had to do the alt
Oh,
Z
okay,
to
okay.
get it back, cause I didn't realize they even deleted it. Yeah, cause we're kinda revisiting the same things, aren't we?
Is that RTI?
So now we have, everybody, in my understanding now, has quarter grades.
The trimesters.
You guys, you have trimesters?
Tri-semesters.
Tri-semesters?
Tri-tip,
Really? So you have, we have,
elementary
yeah,
has
trimester.
trimesters.
The elementary's on trimester,
The
the
middle
secondary's
school
on semester, it's a mess.
Do they do quarter grades at the high school?
No, they do progress every
Just
6
progress
weeks.
reports?
Every
So the-
6 weeks and then a semester
The
grade.
high school now in Madera has quarter grades, and they're counted for eligibility purposes.
Mm,
And it's actually causing more problems than solving, I think. Cause kids in the middle of sports are not getting pulled where before they would have been eligible for the whole
Yes.
season. And had a chance after the season ended to get their grade back up, so causing problems. And causing more work for you?
Yeah, we're submitting our grades pretty frequently.
Oh, no.
Feels like every
Cause progress reports and then quarter grade.
Yep.
Do you have progress reports again this quarter?
Yeah, it's like next week.
And then grades in December?
I felt like I just did it.
Do you do it again?
Well, I think it's good in Longman, cause some teachers don't put in all the work for the semester, like
Yeah.
the week before finals,
Yeah.
and then the kid's like, what do you mean I have an F minus?
Yeah.
I had an A, because the last time we submitted my grades, so it's to
Yeah.
kick us into high gear, which we hate, but it's good, it's actually good,
Well, that was the intent of the board policy of putting grades in every week
yeah.
for every subject.
Yeah.
But who's checking it?
No.
And if it's not checked,
No
it's not
accountability.
done.
Parents like me that are yelling at my kid for something not being able, but Mom, I turned it in last week.
We have a vice principal who will send out emails every week and say, hey, you haven't updated it yet.
Nice.
So.
That is
Somebody's,
Is it Adam?
well, we have, the old philosophy is I can ask you to do something, but unless I check it, I know you're not gonna.
Sometimes it takes longer than a week to grade 90 essays. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But it did say
If I
a
get
grade
checked
for
on
anything,
that,
so you
that
could
will be
put
my
some,
answer.
at a
Why
single
is it
subject
second?
there, at a single subject, I could put in a,
I know.
vocab quiz
I
or.
could put some BS assignment in, sure.
Alright, enough of reflective questions.
So I do a weekly class participation thing, even if it's 10 points. That's kind of my advanced.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to
I
grade
was just
kids on
gonna say that,
participation.
but I see
No,
that.
but it's actually a piece of paper. It's our like daily
Classwork.
it's our
Classwork.
daily.
You need to call it something else. That word is
Well, it's
class
called
language.
the petit, I mean, it's in French.
It's
in
in,
Madrid? Yeah,
technically,
but
you're
it's-
not allowed to use participation as a
Except
grade.
for PE.
Why? What's
It's
the?
against our contract or something. Call it something else. I think it's ridiculous too, so I call it
Is it
something
like
else.
warm-ups or daily 5? I mean, there's so many things we call it, but.
Call it warm-up.
Alright, early completion options, so I think I handled everything else. I am it's on my to-do list tomorrow morning, we did our last interview this week, to send out notifications to you that have early completion options. The good news though is this, the heavy lifting is done. In the past, being an early completion option meant a lot more work. This year, the first years did those early documents, the bridging, the site admin consult, the continuum, and now we're treating them like a second year. They have 3 goals to do instead of 2. But they've already done the heavy lifting. So we're not really asking for a whole lot more out of them than we would have asked for a second year. The difference is that, and keep this in mind, when we get to our presentation in May, ECOs are going to be required to give evidence for the standards they did not select for their learning goals. CTC says we have to have evidence of growth for all 6 standards. Our writing group says 6 is covered by our induction program, so nobody's writing to 6. An ECO is being required to write 3 goals, and they're going to tell me, I didn't choose 4 and 5, and here's why. Okay? Make sense? So keep that in mind as we move forward. Any questions about ECOs? There's a lot this year, I think about a dozen. There'll be more next year. Alright, we mentioned this, the ILP will be updated by the 14th and then again on March 30th and include new or revised goals, professional development, or revised measurable outcomes. Does everyone understand that what we did in October was not an update? Because I'm getting emails asking me, we just did an update in October, I got a downloaded one in November. That wasn't an update. Alright, any questions about that? Okay. Have you all done the pre-assessments relating to the ILPs? They may be the same pre-assessment for all goals, or you may have 2 or 3 different assessments because the goals are so different. But everyone's done at least some of the pre-assessments? Get on that. Because what we want to make sure is that we have the largest possible window to gather evidence of teacher growth.
That just means for a unit or whatever, they
Could be,
agree in a post, they get the exact same thing, it's like
Could
old
be.
pizza for that.
kind of, yes, but could be that.
What about a bench?
So in that case, you may have a series, and I did this yesterday,
Does
It may
reflect
be,
their
if you
ILP?
wanna do it for every unit, then you might have a graph.
What I don't get is how that reflects their ILP.
I'll explain in a moment.
Okay.
Might be a scatter graph, a pre and post. The idea is this. How do I know that my better classroom management is having an effect on the students? I have better, I have more engaging lesson plans. I can see it, I feel it, but how do I know that it's affecting student
Learning.
outcomes? So I am going to give a pre-assessment now. I'm gonna work hard on better engagement in my lesson plans, and now I'm gonna give another assessment, similar to this one, not the same standards, and see if in fact they have learned more.
How
If
many
they-
of those do they have?
At least a minimum of one in now and one in the spring. But in what you just described, it may be a series of pre and posts.
Since more of that content.
Right? So we looked, for instance, somebody brought up history and said, what if we looked at analyzing original sources and being, as my measurable outcome? Well, that was something that that person could do all year long, and it would make sense to have one pre and one post with a series of lessons all in between. Every unit, they're constantly looking at original source material. Or in my sample that I showed you, I talked about critical thinking. Again, it made sense to have, I'm doing a writing assignment now. I'm gonna teach all year long using my rubric. I'm gonna have a writing assignment again. It may be on a different topic, but I'm looking at critical thinking. Did they grow?
That apply to the pre-service people?
No.
Okay.
This is part of the circle of inquiry that we are asking all induction candidates to do. And in the standards, they still use the word inquiry. We chose not to use that, but that's, we chose not to use that word, but that's what our intent is. In the old way, we actually did 2 inquiries a year, and did them in a short amount of time, like 4 weeks, 6 weeks. And the lessons got squished to 1 week, and there were only 3. And so we thought, boy, you could really shine for a week and have great data and make it look like you're the best teacher there ever was. We're trying to do this over the course of a whole year and hopefully show more authentic data. So if you want to use a scatter plot or a bar graph or whatever means that shows this is where the kids started in October, and this is where they are in April. And what we'll do is we'll take all the credit for it. We'll say induction made this teacher great, and that's why these teachers, these kids that we know. We know that it's a stew, but we can't really do an authentic sign test and throw in all the controls and only have one factor. We understand that there's multiple factors involved. But we'll ignore that and just pretend like we did the great stuff. Make sense? Everybody clear? Good. Can we go home now?
Are they still pulling, work from 3 students?
Yes.
Okay, so make sure.
Focus students' work is still important.
Focus students moving.
Then you pick another one that was in that subgroup.
Okay.
And I do have some sites where the teacher doesn't have an EL student, and so they said, what do we do? And I said, pick your low reader. It's really, that's kind of where we're at with our EL students. Unfortunately, the new standards doesn't particularly reference having to have a EL student in our classroom. All right, how is the collection of evidence going? Does it seem organic? Is it making your, I'm still curious, is this number of 2 to 3 a month too little or too much? What are you guys thinking?
I think
Your one's good?
your 2's might, if they do the higher end of it, they'll probably.
So you think we
There
should,
has so many more goals.
so looking forward to next year, we might say year 2's 4 to 6 or 4 to 5? Interesting.
Sounds like a lot of space.
Is the question that we ask, are they having to dig deep to answer and analyze what they're collecting?
I don't feel like you
Not so
should try
much?
to drown them, and I feel feel like if you had made them do 4 or 5 evidence a month, that would try to drown them.
I still hear, and I don't know what to put, if it's on human nature or just the nature of having to do work, but I'm still hearing a little bit of bark out there in the field of, gosh, this is a lot. And can I have more
That's 'cause they
time?
didn't do the other kind of heads up.
No, we haven't.
But you
When
know
they say
what?
that, I slap them in the ear.
If they're doing a journal and they're having to focus at 4 times a week on sitting down and writing their journal, and they're teaching something every single day, they've got to be documenting something they taught. And how hard is it either to snap a few pictures or to collect the work? And if it's a group project, just snap a few pictures and you've got your evidence.
But it also, yeah, we're also talking about our PLCs, our grade level group discussions. When an academic coach comes by and gives us feedback, their observations, they're being observed by multiple people. Any PD that they're going to, if they went to a seminar, or if they read a book, or they went to TeacherTube, or whatever, all of this, I think,
Is evidence.
and it is. I looked at the menu that we put together and the options that are out there, and it's pretty vast. It seemed to me that most of it was organic. I didn't have to go search for something and make it stick on the refrigerator.
I think it's, for me, I know, it's hard for me to, because it's the first time of any of it, so it's hard to see the whole big plan of what it looks like over the course of 2 years. And so I feel like I'm not very good at explaining to them what they need because I don't really get it yet myself.
Right.
So I'm feeling that kind of, we'll get together and they'll go, well, what do we do here? And we'll try to figure it out. And I'll go, well, let me call Kathy. That's usually my answer. Because, so it's not, I don't think it's too much. I think it's about for them and me to see that all the things they're already doing is what they're to be gathering. It's really not anything extra, except for the journals. The rest of it is stuff that they have to do in their classroom.
That's it.
That's
Stuff
what it
that they
is.
should already be doing.
Or things that are directed by administration anyway.
Exactly.
So, it's just kind of, I wish I felt stronger as a support system to them right now.
And it goes back to that question, how does this inform your teaching?
Yeah.
That's really what we want them to be digging into and doing. Okay. So it sounds like y'all are excited about it, but your candidates are like, man, this is a lot.
I think it ties to whether they had a good ILP goal.
There you go.
Mine had a poor one, and I'm really hoping they update it.
Okay. So you're helping massage that thought through and talk to them?
Definitely.
That'll work. And I agree that, bits of 10 years ago versus 8 years ago, 3 years ago is a big difference, and then now we're at this, and Megan's all, where's the documents?
Can't remember my documents.
I want my box back.
I do, I like my box.
You see that box? Oh my goodness. Alright, and what are your next steps? If you started thinking about what evidence can we start looking at and thinking about collecting as we're going forward for the rest of the semester? Okay? So